My name's Tyler. I was 18 when this happened. I just graduated high school here in Michigan. Before heading off to college, I wanted a little time alone. No noise, no people, no expectations. My uncle owns an old cabin deep in the woods, and he said I could use it for a few days. So I packed up my dog, Luna, and drove north.
The trip took longer than I thought. The farther I got, the fewer cars I saw. By the time I reached the dirt road leading to Birch Hollow, my cell service was gone. The cabin looked weathered, its porch sagging a little, windows dusty, but it kind of fit the mood I was after. Quiet, forgotten. After unpacking, I cooked a quick dinner, instant noodles and a can of beer, and sat by the window while the woods faded into pitch black. It was peaceful, just the sound of insects outside and the occasional pop from the old fireplace. When I finally crawled into my sleeping bag, Luna curled up next to me, warm and steady. I drifted off, reading a paperback I'd brought along.
Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke to a sound that didn't belong.
I froze, staring at the ceiling. The knocks were slow, deliberate. My phone said it was just after 2 in the morning. Luna was already up, hair bristling, a low growl rumbling in her chest. I whispered, "Quiet, girl," and reached for the flashlight beside me. Every instinct told me to stay put, but curiosity, or maybe just stupidity, got the better of me. I crept to the nearest window, careful not to step on the creaky boards. Outside, the forest was still. There was just enough moonlight, maybe 40% of a full moon, to outline the treetops and the glint of the old pickup out front. Nothing moved, no shape, no person. Just the whisper of wind through tall grass. Luna pressed against my leg, trembling, her eyes locked on the dark outline of the door. I must have sat by that window for a long time, staring into the dark. Eventually, Luna settled down, though every sound made her twitch. When the forest went silent again, I convinced myself it had to be a branch, an animal, or the wind playing tricks.
I fell back asleep around 3, but it didn't last. At 4, something pulled me out of a shallow dream. A sound, soft, distant. A whistle. Not a tune exactly, more like someone trying to get a dog's attention. It came from deep in the woods, carrying just enough to be real. Luna went from growling to barking, charging toward the door with her nails scraping the floorboards. "Quiet," I hissed, but she wouldn't stop. Her fur stood up straight, eyes locked on the trees outside. I thought about opening the door, but my hand froze halfway to the latch. That uneasy feeling, the one that says don't, pinned me in place. The whistle faded. The woods went still again. I didn't sleep much after that. Every time I closed my eyes, it felt like the darkness was waiting to whisper something back. I must have drifted off just as the sun rose, because the next thing I remember was... A voice shouted, "Tyler, you up?" I shot out of bed, heart pounding. It was daylight now, and through the window I saw a familiar figure, stocky build, red plaid jacket, a wide grin. Rick, my cousin. He was my uncle's son, almost 4 years older than me. He managed the off-road rental a few miles north. The sight of his big 4x4 parked out front felt like relief itself. I laughed, still shaking a little. "You scared the hell out of me, man." "Guess I should have called first," he said, holding up a paper bag and 2 coffees. The smell hit before I even opened the door.
We had breakfast out on the porch, eggs and sandwiches he'd picked up from a diner on the way. The sun felt great after the long, restless night. Soon enough, we were fishing at the nearby lake and tearing through dirt trails on his 4x4s. The roar of engines and the splash of cold water washed away everything strange about the cabin. By late afternoon, sitting on the porch with a beer in hand, I almost forgot about the night before. Almost. I told him about the knocks, the whistle, the way Luna lost her mind. Rick chuckled and shrugged. "Probably coyotes," he said, not meeting my eyes. "They make weird noises sometimes." But he looked away too fast. There was something behind that smile, like he already knew exactly what I'd heard. The shadows had just started stretching long when Rick packed up his truck. The sun dipped behind the tree line, casting everything in a soft gold haze. He closed his tailgate and turned to me. "Got a group coming up early tomorrow," he said, brushing the dirt off his jeans. "Can't be out too late tonight." I nodded, though part of me wished he'd just stay. The day had been easy, full of noise, laughter, and the quiet safety of company. Now, with evening creeping in, the cabin felt different again. Rick must have noticed my hesitation. "You gonna be all right out here?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound confident. "That's kind of the point. Some alone time. Clear my head." He gave a half smile and looked past me, toward the darkening tree line. "Just remember," he said, lowering his voice a little, "don't go outside after dark." I laughed lightly, waiting for a grin or a punchline. None came. He turned back to his truck. "These woods, they've got their own rules. You don't mess with them. They usually don't mess with you."
Before I could ask what that meant, the engine roared to life. He gave a short wave through the window, and then he was gone, his taillights fading down the dirt road until the forest swallowed them whole.
The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Even Luna seemed uneasy, watching the road long after the sound of the truck disappeared. The second night passed quietly. I woke up twice for no clear reason, but the cabin stayed silent. Luna was calm, breathing softly at my feet. No knocking, no distant whistle, just the ordinary stillness of the woods. When morning came, golden light slipped through the window, and for the first time since arriving, I felt refreshed. I brewed some instant coffee, ate a quick breakfast, and decided to hike to the lake my uncle once mentioned, a hidden spot about 2.5 miles deep into the woods. Rick had said not to wander after dark, but it was early and the day was clear. I left a note on the table anyway, just in case, grabbed my book and Luna's leash, and set off. The trail wound through tall pines and soft moss, the air cool and fragrant. I saw a pair of deer dash across the path, a falcon circling overhead. The woods felt alive but harmless, just a quiet place breathing under the sun. When we reached the lake, it was exactly how I remembered it from childhood. Calm, glassy water reflecting the sky, ringed by old birch trees with silver bark. I sat on a rock near the shore, pulled out my book, and read a few chapters before making a light lunch. Tuna sandwich, a handful of chips, cold water from my bottle. As I ate, fragments of memory started floating back. I'd been here once before. Years ago, when I was maybe 7 or 8, Dad had brought me along with my uncle for a weekend at this same cabin. I remembered fishing, roasting marshmallows, laughing. But after the second or maybe third night, something changed. That last morning, Dad was uneasy. I'd never seen him like that. His face pale, his words short. He and my uncle spoke in whispers outside the cabin, and not long after, we packed up fast and left. He didn't tell me why, and when I asked to come back the next summer, he refused. Every year after, he took me camping somewhere else, always on the other side of the state. I'd almost forgotten those details until today. My train of thought broke when Luna stiffened beside me, a low growl rumbling from her chest. Her ears were pointed toward the lake. "Hey, it's okay,"
I murmured, setting my sandwich down. Then I heard it, a loud, sudden splash. Water rippled outward from the center of the lake, wide and heavy, as if something large had just sunk beneath the surface. I stood, scanning the mirror-like water. No movement now, no sign of anything. "Probably a fish," I whispered, though my voice sounded unfamiliar. The air had changed, quieter, heavier. Luna kept staring, trembling slightly, her growl fading into a whine. And for a split second, I could have sworn something beneath that still water was staring right back.
The sound startled me so much I almost dropped my phone. A single sharp beep cut through the quiet, harsh, electronic, completely out of place in the middle of the woods. On the screen flashed a bold red banner, "Severe Weather Alert." For a second, I just stared at it, frozen. There hadn't been a single bar of service since yesterday morning, not even a flicker of signal. Yet somehow this alert had come through, clear as day. I glanced at the sky. The western horizon had turned darker, thick clouds rolling fast toward the lake, their edges bruised purple and gray. The breeze picked up, carrying a damp chill that sent ripples across the water. "Come on, Luna," I said, clipping her leash back on. She didn't need encouragement. Her tail was tucked low, and she kept glancing behind us as if something might step out of the trees.
We started on the trail home. The air grew steadily cooler, the light dimming fast. I kept checking the sky, hoping the storm would hold off, but after 15 minutes, the first drops hit. Cold, heavy, relentless. By the time the cabin came into view, rain was pouring hard and the path had turned slick. Completely drenched, I stumbled inside, shut the door and toweled off the best I could. Luna shook herself dry beside the hearth while I changed clothes and set a pot of water to boil. The rhythmic pattern of rain against the roof filled the silence. Coffee in hand, I sat near the small window, looking out at the gray curtain of rain. The lake, the memories, Rick's warning, they all circled in my mind. I told myself I'd had enough adventure. Tomorrow morning, I'd pack up and head home. Still, something about the walk back gnawed at me. The wind howled as I made my way back through the woods. Branches snapped overhead, rain spattered harder against the leaves. The storm was growing fast, roaring through the trees like a living thing. Even with all that noise, though, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was behind me. Every time I looked over my shoulder, lightning flashed between the trunks, and for just a second, I thought I saw movement in the corner of my eye. I told myself it was nerves, just the storm. I woke up to chaos. The storm had grown wild. Wind shrieked around the cabin, rain lashed the windows, but underneath it, there was something else. Not the wind, not branches. Someone was pounding on the door, hard, like they meant to break it down. I froze, listening. Luna was barking now, frantic, tugging toward the door. Between the crashes of thunder, I heard a voice. "Tyler, open the door!" Nick? For a moment, I almost moved, but something stopped me. My heart hammered as I shouted back, "Rick, what the hell are you doing out there?" His reply came, muffled by the rain. "I came to meet you. My truck got stuck in the mud." That didn't make sense. Rick's 4x4 could plow through a swamp without slowing down. Why wasn't he on the porch? Why just standing out there in the rain? Another flash of lightning lit the window, and I looked. Something stood a few feet from the door. Tall, still. The light hit it just long enough for me to see that it was shaped roughly like a man, but not quite. Too tall, too thin. No clear features, only a pale stretch where a face should be. "Open the door, Tyler." This time the voice was wrong. It started as Rick's, but there was something else in it, a curl of laughter at the end, mocking, cruel. Rick never laughed like that. By now, he'd be swearing, pounding, joking. This was something else. I stumbled back, shaking, grabbed my hunting knife, and kept Luna close behind me. The knocking stopped.
For a few moments, only the storm filled the silence. Then came a new sound, scratching, long, deliberate strokes against the window pane. "Whatever you are," I shouted, "I'm not letting you in." The scratching stopped, and I swear I heard a laugh, low, thin, joyless. Then the roof creaked. Something heavy had landed above me. Footsteps followed, slow and careful, pacing across the shingles. Then another jump, the thud echoing from the far side of the cabin. Luna whimpered. I didn't move. After a long minute, the sound grew faint, footsteps fading into the distance, and just before it disappeared completely, a single haunting whistle cut through the rain. Then silence.
I didn't sleep. I sat until dawn, gripping the knife, listening. When the first light of morning touched the trees, I grabbed my keys, loaded Luna into the truck, and drove. I didn't care about directions, just wanted distance between me and that place. When I glanced back at the cabin one last time, scratches marked the wall near the window. Beside them, muddy footprints. Too small for any grown man, too uneven for any animal I knew.
At a gas station miles away, I finally had signal. I called Rick. He answered groggily, said he'd been home all night. I told him everything, every sound, every word. He went quiet for a long while. Then he said, "That wasn't me, Ty."
And in his voice, I heard something worse than fear. Familiarity. As if he already knew. If you like the story, please like and subscribe.